Cuba 街应该是惠灵顿最有名、最热闹的一条街。这路上你可以找到咖啡店、餐厅、美容院、银行，什么都有。Cuba Street is probably Wellington's most popular and most well-known street. I've walked the street top to bottom a few times, and I can tell you can find just about anything on the street, from supermarkets to banks to clothing stores, all kinds of eateries, coffee shops, and so much more. I think it's safe to say that most people in Wellington know Cuba Street, but I'm not sure if they all know the history behind the street. The street itself was actually named after an early settler ship called Cuba, which arrived in 1840. Even in the early days, in the mid to 1800s, Cuba Street was a busy and vibrant place with a local market where country folk could sell their produce. There were a few stores here and even a local pub. Cuba Street was also once the route of the Wellington trams. After the rails were removed, the middle section of the street was closed to traffic in 1969, and now it is a pedestrian mall, and probably one of the busiest areas of pedestrian traffic in all of Wellington. The history of the street is evident today with over 40 heritage buildings on the street, many of which have either been earthquake strengthened or are in the process of being so. Some of the things that stood out was a little post box, which you almost miss because it's sort of hidden on the corner of Cuba and Manor Street. This little post box was built in 1879. The Bristol Hotel at 127 Cuba Street is another one, built in 1909 by James Gardner. Further up the road is the commercial building at 241 Cuba Street, constructed in 1908 by William Charles Chartfield, which is now an art gallery. Another fun attraction in Cuba Mall is the bucket fountain. This bucket fountain was constructed in 1969 as part of the Cuba Street pedestrian mall construction. The fountain was designed that the buckets regularly tip their contents onto the pavement rather than into the buckets below. The pipes that fill the top buckets were deliberately made short so that on windy days a lot of the water gets blown away, reaching none of the buckets. Cuba Street area has seen a lot of changes over time, but some of the businesses have stood the test of time, like the Matterhorn. Originally established by two pioneer Swiss brothers in 1963, it quickly became the talk of the town as the first continental coffee lounge around. Today it operates as a fabulous restaurant and lively bar. What you can also do is grab a coffee somewhere and just go and sit on one of the public benches to people watch if you like. If this is your first time visiting Wellington, perhaps you want to watch the clip I did on safety in Wellington. Cuba Street does attract a lot of homeless people, but they don't seem to bother anyone. All along Cuba Street you will find lots of really nice cafes and restaurants, not to mention ample of outdoor seating if the weather is agreeable. You also find hair salons, nail salons, pharmacies, banks. There's a phone shop on the street. I would say this would be your one-stop for all your requirements type of street.